Welcome in to the PFF NFL betting show for Week 17. Mason Cameron, Ben Linsey, joining us remotely, Judah Fortgang. Boys, happy holidays. We had a crazy slate of games yesterday. All sorts of near upsets towards the end there, which I didn't quite like so much. But we keep it moving. It was a good week of football already so far, and we have games on Saturday. We have games on Sunday. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's probably not the slate that the NFL had in mind when you put up Lions, Vikings, Cowboys, Commanders, Chiefs, Broncos going into the season. Those looked a lot more intriguing. But we ended up with some close games there at the end with the last two, and even the Commanders kind of battling back. So not all a wash there yesterday.
Yeah, not too bad. Judah, how'd you do? We heard you you made out like a bit of a bandit there on some Cavante Turpin. Tell us about your Christmas Day slate. How did that one go?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought a pretty exciting 3 games of football, even though the games themselves were fairly meaningless in terms of the standings. Yeah, definitely got a nice little Cavante Turpin SGP that I, to be honest, kind of degened like 5 minutes before the game. It was one of those, I actually had a rare few minutes to be able to like just click around. It used to be a staple of my days. Unfortunately, I have other things going on that it's not often I can do that. But hit a nice Cavante Turpin SGP, and then got to enjoy just the Brian Flores masterclass, and Jared Goff, really a vintage Jared Goof game, as we used to say. Really just unable to kind of handle the blitzes outside of some one drive at the end of the first half, and then a bunch of conversions. And then it's very rare that we see quarterbacks throwing for 55 yards or like the net yards and actually being into football games. And I was told earlier that I have to stop the references of, if any of us are playing quarterback. But I played a little flag football, and it's possible, my performance maybe could have lived up to these guys. Jokes aside, really honestly incredible that the Vikings and Chiefs were in those games. And like, it's a great reminder, I think, of the difference in caliber between like, it's one thing like starters to backups, but even like backups to third stringers. Like there is a magnitude of difference in how you approach the games. But all in all, good slate. I love football. We get to do it again tomorrow. We get to do it again Sunday and again Monday. We are really blessed.
Judah is on cloud 9. And of course, just to recap some of the outcomes from yesterday's slate, we had the Cowboys and Commanders. Cowboys 30, Commanders 23. It was about a push at the 7, is I believe where it closed at there, and it went over the 50.5 game total. The Lions 10 did not cover as 7.5 point favorites against the Vikings 23. And as Judah mentioned, Max Brosmer coming in there actually moved that line from 6 to 7.5. Ben, that was something that we talked a little bit about prior to the show and a little bit yesterday as well, in leading up to that game. And of course, Broncos 20, Chiefs 13. That game closed at 13.5, so definitely didn't hit on that one. And I know you, Ben, you were sweating the over on that one. So that, a lot of closer games than you would anticipate, considering how we saw sort of the quarterback motioning out and, a lot of backups, a lot of third stringers coming in there, and it was a doozy, but saw some competitive football. Some teams no longer in the hunt anymore, unfortunately for the Lions there, but we have a lot of games to go over on this slate. And first and foremost, if you guys want to get in on the action, make sure you guys head over to DraftKings, use promo code PFF, and of course, get your PFF Plus subscription right now for 30% off using code HOLIDAY30. That gets you access to the PFF player prop tool, which we're going to break out here in just a little bit. And of course, gives you access to the data trusted by all 32 NFL teams. And of course, the mock draft simulator, which it's about time to get the mock draft simulator out. Break that thing open. But I know you're going to be using that thing a lot. So, we have a lot to go over here today. So first, we're going to jump into our game market bet of the week. And Judah and I have a little bit of a same angle here. So I'm going to start us off here, Judah, if you don't mind, because I like where your head's at here, and I'm going to set the table for you real nice. So my bet for this week is going to be New Orleans -2.5 versus Tennessee. And really, the Saints have been playing some of their best ball of the season. Over the last 6 games, they're 4-2 straight up, 5-1 against the spread. And that includes 3-0 against the spread on the road. Granted, those were all as dogs, but they did have 2 straight up wins as 5-point dogs or more. They beat Carolina by 10 as +5. They beat Tampa Bay by 4 at +7.5. And really, the story behind this team has been the defense. They've been so solid since week 10. First in offensive success rate allowed, and they're holding teams to just 4.4 yards per play. That's second best in the NFL over that span. And granted, those have been primarily against some of the lower tier offenses that we see in the NFL. But I would say that Tennessee probably falls within that order. The Titans coming off their best win, 26-9 versus Kansas City. You know, a pretty strapped Kansas City team. But it was, one of Tennessee's stronger performances. It was their highest EPA per dropback game of the year, 9th highest on the week. First time we see them in the top 10 in quite a while. And the Chiefs, to their credit, they just had some struggles there. It's been a bit of a struggle for them, particularly in the back end. Since the start of November, they're 29th in EPA per dropback allowed. And this matchup with the Saints coverage just doesn't really, pose favorably for them. High rate of close coverages, which Cam Ward tends to struggle a little bit with. Against one high, he has 6 yards per attempt, 11 turnover-worthy plays. Both of those are in the bottom 10. And then when we look at the other side, Tyler Shuck, he's finding his rhythm. Over the last 3 games, an 86.2 passing grade. That's 6th in the NFL. And the big one here for me was he's actually really good over the middle of the field. Now, a lot of those are some short measured completions, but a 90.6 adjusted completion percentage between the numbers, that's first in the NFL. And that's actually a spot that Tennessee really struggles to cover in the middle of the field. They allow the 4th highest passer rating allowed in the NFL on throws over the middle of the field. And Ben, I know that you've actually been on quite a few Saints money lines throughout this process over their stretch here. Tell us a little bit about what you've seen from this team and just how successful they've been.
Yeah, that was basically the thesis a couple weeks ago when I recommended money line against the Panthers. Is the defense has been playing pretty well over the back half of the year, and Shuck has looked competent, right? And he's grading pretty well since week 10. Granted, not a great slate of opposing defenses faced, but the same thing can be said here against Tennessee. Chris Olave's look good. Right? They have a few weapons. Their running backs are kind of decimated by injury right now, but they're making it work with Taysom Hill and Audric Estime and Evan Hull. So yeah, this is I know this is a team that we kind of at the beginning of the year thought could be the worst team in the NFL. Early in the year, it looked like that might be the case. Like as they've kind of rounded into form the last couple of weeks, I don't think that is the case, and I do think that they're better than a field goal. They're over a field goal better than Tennessee in this spot.
And Judah thinks the same thing. Judah's thinking they're better than over a field goal in this spot. Judah, you've pushed this line, according to our notes, out to 5.5 for the Saints. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing on this and why you're confident to push that alt line just a little bit further and give you more value.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same points that have been raised, that like Tyler Shuck has been a lot better in the last month of play, and you can chalk that up to matchups, but it's not as though a Tennessee Titans defense that's bottom 3 in perfect coverage rate, bottom of the league in pressure rate, especially quick pressure and pressure disruption. This is not a great matchup. They're not a great pass defense. Shuck should, I think, be able to kind of continue as he has, and it also falls into a general point. This is something we've researched at PFF, that quarterbacks, especially in their rookie seasons, get better as the season goes along, and that kind of player trajectory and player curve is true into year 1 and year 2, and like that we should kind of update our priors a little bit quicker, I think, for rookies than we would obviously a player who has a 3-game, good stretch in year 7. That's obviously very different than a rookie quarterback. Then the point on the defense and kind of why I like the alts here is that Cam Ward had his best game for sure. This is also a Kansas City defense that was completely decimated by injury last week and even last night. They, I think, played pretty well, but that to me had a little bit more to do with Bo Nix and a lot of his inaccuracy than it did kind of the Kansas City side. It's not a good defense on paper right now, and like I think we know what Cam Ward is at this stage in his career, and like we were backing him last week. It's all relative to market pricing. I don't think this is a quarterback who's going to be able to overcome a pretty good matchup that, as you said, the Saints over the second half of the season, they're number 1 in the NFL in EPA per play, basically tied for number 1 in success rate allowed, and they're doing it on both sides of the ball. The rush defense also is top 3. That is a spot that Tennessee has gotten going in the last bunch of weeks, which I think has unlocked a lot of the passing game, and I don't think they're going to be in the same kind of favorable circumstances for Ward to be able to hit on a lot of these deep plays that he has in recent weeks. I think we're going to see kind of a spot similar to what we've seen all year from Tennessee, which is an offense that takes a lot of sacks, struggles to move the ball, and without their kind of explosives in the run game, somewhat one-dimensional, is very difficult for Cam Ward to win. And then, on the other side of the ball, it's exactly, I think, what we've seen from the Saints the last bunch of weeks, and they're much more comfortable to lean into Shuck. I think he's a lot better. And that's a spot where you add up all those angles, and I think winning with margin is certainly on the table here.
We're getting the Brandon Staley renaissance in New Orleans right now.
Who knew? Who knew? It was just never wrong. That's totally butchered.
Never wrong, just early.
Yeah, there we go.
Never wrong, just early.
The epitome of that. So we're taking Saints, boys. We're riding with the Saints again. They've made us some money this over this span, and we're going to take it till the wheels fall off. So I love it. I'm with you, Judah. I'm going to bring it out to -5.5 too, and we're riding, baby. We're riding. Ben, let's head over to you. Tell us a little bit about your game market bet of the week.
Yeah, it was for me personally kind of a tough week for spreads. I didn't love a lot of these when I was looking through them this week. I landed on Rams -7.5. There's some 8s, some 8.5s out there. It's -7.5 on DraftKings right now, -115. And this is basically, I've been on the Falcons the last 2 weeks. I liked them against the Bucs. My game market bet last week on this pod was the team total over, which they snuck through with half a point against the Cardinals. I think this is a rough matchup for Cousins, who is probably more sensitive to kind of situation and the defensive matchup than a good amount of quarterbacks. And this is a Rams defense that has generated pressure at a top 5 rate over the last 5 games. They've been towards the top of the NFL all season, and they don't blitz, right? So they're getting pressure with their front 4. You still have all those coverage defenders back. And when Cousins has been pressured this season, 40% completion rate, that's 3rd lowest in the NFL. They only have generated positive EPA on 27.5% of those dropbacks. For reference, the lowest in the NFL at a team level is the Dolphins at 29%, so it would be worse than that. And I think the Rams will be able to impact them in this game. And this is a Rams defense that has given up some explosives the last couple weeks. You saw that against the Lions in that game. You saw it against the Seahawks. But overall, down to down, they're still top 3 in success rate over the last couple weeks, over the last 5 weeks. It's really been those big plays, and that was kind of the story in that Seahawks game. You had that 50-yard catch and run to Kenneth Walker. You had the long Kenneth Walker run, but really they held Seattle down for 3/4 of that game. Then Rashid Shaheed returned to punt. They were able to push that to overtime, and you look up at the scoreboard, and they have 30-plus points in that game. But overall, I think this is still a very good Rams defense that will be able to create issues for Cousins. And then on the other side, I really don't have any issues or any concerns with this Rams offense in almost any matchup. They just went into Seattle, and Stafford threw for 450 without Devontae Adams. They have one of the best run games in the NFL. Both Blake Corum and Kyron Williams, almost interchangeable with how they've been playing the last couple weeks. And they have a massive rest advantage for this game. You're going from Thursday night football in Week 16 to Monday night football in Week 17. So I think the Rams are in a position here where they can win by margin. I guess there is some concern that they can theoretically be eliminated from the NFC West by the time this game happens. It's on Monday night. If the Niners and Seahawks both win, they are eliminated from the NFC West. but you're still playing for the 5 seed in that situation, which I think is something you should play for, getting to play Tampa or Carolina, even with the Rams being a team that we've seen rest starters pretty consistently.
Imagine being a team hosting a home playoff game and you have to face this Rams team. That would sound like an absolute nightmare. An absolute nightmare. Because when we talk about it, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. They do everything very, very well. And a big issue, at least what we saw, was their issue over the last handful of games with some of these explosives. But overall, down to down, they are very, very productive. We talk about their coverage grade. They're first in the NFL, 87.3. Same thing in their run defense grade. First in the NFL, 84.7. They are a very, very productive all-around team that has pieces. It felt like last year, sometimes it was the back end that was really giving them some, cause for concern. But now they're playing really, really well all over. And it really just comes down to some of those fluky or marginal plays that we don't see all the time. I mean, we can talk about the Seahawks game. I mean, debatably, that game doesn't go to overtime unless there is an extremely fluky, batted 2-point conversion that ends up in the end zone and converts for 2, which nobody even realizes. So there's a lot of stuff that comes between the lines, but I do agree with you. This is a long layoff here for them to have plenty of rest and to get ready. And I just think that that's, quite a bit difference between what we saw or what we're going to see against their opponent this week and what we've seen versus a number of their other matchups recently. Judah, do you have any other intake on this game, or input on this game rather, what you're seeing from the Rams? Are you confident in what they can do? This 7.5 on the road, this is a big number.
Yeah, I think the Falcons offense also has been a lot better in recent weeks, and they've done a really great job of getting Bijan Robinson the ball as a receiver in space. And the Rams defense quietly, I think, is going through a bit of a rough stretch, especially in coverage. Their perfect coverage rate over the last kind of month of the season and even last 6 weeks, bottom 5 in the NFL, which is a spot where Cousins can take advantage. And he's a quarterback very, very sensitive to those sorts of matchups. So I think the Falcons might be able to move the ball. But to Ben's point, this is a Rams offense that's an absolute house. And it doesn't matter if Devontae Adams is out, going up against the number 1 defense in the NFL or whatever, a top 3 defense in the NFL. They're going to score. And the Rams run game, especially as they gotten Blake Corum a lot more involved, has them firing all cylinders. So I don't hate the side. The kind of Falcons offensive success would not surprise me, but I'm not kind of eager to make this bet. But definitely not worried about the motivational angle. It's I think actually perfect justice that I don't love the fact that an NFC South team gets to host a home game, even though they're 4 games worse. But they deserve the Rams if they're going to kind of get that in the first round. So not a concern on my end from the Rams motivational standpoint.
They're gonna come in there swinging. They're gonna be upset to be in the 5 seed, that's for sure. And boys, that's our game markets of the week. We have some good ones there. And make sure you guys tap into both of these guys on Twitter because they're going to be having some more angles to follow. Ben Linsey _ throw the damn ball. Those are the handles you follow them at. PFF Mace if you guys want some more action there. And, of course, boys, we're going to jump into the best part of the show, the player props. But first, we got to give a shout-out to our player prop tool. Make sure you guys check it out.
Everyone's got takes. Numbers have truth. And the truth is, most people are betting with emotion. Sportsbooks feed on it. TikTok gurus sell it. The hype machine runs on it. That's how you lose. PFF is different. You're betting with winning data. The same data trusted by all 32 NFL teams and the sharpest minds in the game. PFF betting tools take every prop, every matchup, every angle, and run them through our custom models. Built on the best football data in the world. What comes back is your edge. Simple, sharp, and built to win. Want to go deeper? PFF puts a pro-level analytics department in your hands, giving you the same insights teams use to find every advantage. Build your game plan with matchup analysis. Project every snap, every matchup, and every edge before kickoff. Because the smartest plays start long before Sunday. Hit rates show how a player performs against their prop and against defenses built the same way. It's the data that gives you real confidence in every pick. Next, Key Insights translates PFF data into the story behind every matchup, giving you the why that powers your bets. From coverage schemes to defensive looks, it's the context that turns raw numbers into winning decisions. When you're ready to take action, filter through every prop on the market and focus on the opportunities that matter, by game, matchup, or value. Then, shop for the best available line in your area and tap your book of choice to place the bet instantly. Everyone's got takes, but now you've got truth. Bet with data, win with PFF.
Welcome back. And of course, if you guys want to get in on the action, check out the PFF Player Prop tool. Make sure you guys get your subscription to PFF Plus using code HOLIDAY30 for 30% off right now. And boys, we're jumping into it. We've got props on deck. Judah, I'm throwing straight to you. Tell us what your player prop of the week is, what you're targeting, and why you're loving it.
Yeah, it's going to be Chase Brown over 53.5 rush yards. I mean, this is a Cardinals defense that is decimated by injury now. And since the latest wave of injuries, just cannot stop a nosebleed running the football. I mean, they're giving up 150 plus yards each of the last 3 weeks. High success rate, high EPA per rush allowed, as bad as it comes. And then this is a Cincinnati offense, I think, that's just going to be able to move the ball at will. I think get into a fairly comfortable game state where they're playing from ahead. Not really much to it other than a lot of the kind of medium that's baked into Chase Brown is with a different offense, right? It's without Joe Burrow. It's without the Bengals playing in a game state where they're 7-point favorites. And I think this is a spot where volume's going to accumulate. He's been generally a low carry rusher. And a lot of that has to do with, like, he's in somewhat of a timeshare, but he's still seeing the majority of the work. But if you kind of increase the sample of plays where your expected drop back percentage is not 65%, but is instead 52%, and you're running more plays because your offense is better, you're just going to get more run against the really bad run defense. I think this is just kind of fundamentally mispriced here.
That's it. I could definitely see a world where that happens. I want to go over to you, Ben, because I see that you have a bit of an angle here for our SGP. So first, I want to get your take on this matchup, and then we'll rip the Band-Aid off. We'll go straight into your SGP and lay out sort of the scenario that you could see play out for this game.
Yeah, I certainly like Chase Brown over rushing. Like, to all the points that Judah made, this has been a very bad Arizona defense. I do think there's a world where this shoots out, right? And these offenses kind of trade blows. This is a Cincinnati defense that has played a little bit better over the last couple weeks. But I kind of look at this line and I'm like, should the Bengals be 7.5-point favorites against Arizona? I know Arizona's played terrible, but this defense, I still have concerns with the Bengals defense. And kind of how Arizona plays, I think matches up pretty well. So I'll jump into my SGP. It's Brissett 320 plus passing yards, McBride 120 plus receiving yards, Cardinals minus 3.5. That is 60-1. And kind of the idea here is the Cardinals' pass volume, it's about as secure as any offense in the NFL. Jacoby Brissett has dropped back at least 50 times, 4 times since week 10. There is no other quarterback in the NFL who has done that over twice this season. They're first in pass rate. They're first in basically anything you want to look at with pass rate since Jacoby Brissett came into the league. And we've talked about the Bengals against tight ends all season. It's come up in prop bets. It's come up in SGPs. And now you've got Trey McBride going against this defense, who is second in the NFL in targets. The Bengals have allowed over 300 more receiving yards to tight ends than any other defense in the NFL. So I think there's a scenario where you hit these ceiling games for Brissett and McBride. These are big numbers, 320, 120. Both of them have cleared it multiple times this season. And the Bengals are down potentially 2 of their top 3 pressure generators. That it's not a super impressive list. We've talked about the Bengals' lack of pass rush, but Joseph Asai and B.J. Hill, both DNPs to start the week. So I think this is a game that could end up like in this 35 to 32 range when you're looking at the end of the game. Hopefully 36 to 32 for the case of this, where the Cardinals win by at least 4. But it's I think that's the only way the Cardinals win is if you have this big passing output game from Brissett. And when you're kind of looking at these big numbers and then pairing it with Cardinals minus 3.5, you're kind of getting that inverse relationship there, which is why it's 60-1. So I think the Cardinals do have a chance in this game, and I think the only way they have a chance is if you get monster games from Brissett and McBride.
And I mean, you said it there earlier. I don't know that we've seen, even you said over that span, no quarterbacks thrown for more than 50 attempts in a game more than twice over that span. To think about it, I don't know any quarterback. We should probably look a little bit deeper into that from a sort of a season standpoint, but just in a pure attempts per game world, I want to see where that lines up in historical standpoint with like within the PFF era, just how many times, because it feels like they are dropping back a ton every single week, and they don't really have a ton of confidence in that running game, so they put a lot on Jacoby Brissett's plate, and he delivers quite a bit. He's had games with 452, he's had games with 317, he's had multiple 300-plus yard games, so there is an opportunity for that there. Judah, do you have any sort of back and forth on that one? Do you see it being a world where it could be shooting out? I know that you said that you like the opportunity where Chase Brown can rush for over that number, but, I mean, there could potentially be that world where they're back and forth and he gets that rushing number. Do you see something that sort of falling into the range of possibilities?
Yeah, I mean, like that of course is in there, and that would certainly boost up the legs of the parlay here. But I think you also can kind of hold both things in your head at once of like, Ben's going after a bet with a less than 2%. He doesn't need it to be a 2% hit rate. If it is a 2% hit rate, he's making a lot of money over time. Like he's playing a particular tail angle, which I think makes a ton of sense. Which is like the Cardinals are going to need to throw the ball a lot. That is almost definitely going to flow through McBride, especially against the Cincinnati defense. And also, it's true that like the most likely scenario here is Cincinnati like playing from ahead, taking advantage of the Cardinals' rush defense. So I actually don't think they're necessarily. There are plenty of ways in which the Chase Brown angle, can be layered on top of Ben's play. Just because there's still a lot of play volume in that scenario, but I don't think they're kind of exclusive, and they're attacking at different points on the distribution.
Love it. This is definitely going to be one of those games. I mean, 53.5 points. The market's definitely seeing a pretty high scoring affair in this one. Judah, let's stay with. Oh, actually, that was yours, Ben. Let's stay with you. Let's go to your player prop bet of the week.
Yeah, I'm going with one of the Saturday games here, the opener on Saturday. Justin Herbert, 25-plus rushing yards, is minus 103. And when you watch this Chargers offense the last couple weeks, I think one of the things that stands out is when we've talked about it, Herbert is quick. If he sees a lane, particularly up the middle, to just take off and get what he can. And he has the athleticism to turn those into big gains. He's the only quarterback in the NFL with a scramble rate over 10% with at least 100 dropbacks since week 10. And that's the scramble rate as in crossing the line of scrimmage on a run scramble rate, which is what you're looking for here with rushing yards. And the Texans, great defense. They've given up some rushing production to quarterbacks, and I think it's partially a thing with how they play. You see top 3-man coverage rate the last 5 weeks, top 3 cover 1 rate specifically the last 3 weeks. They get pressure on the quarterback. So I think there's going to be scenarios in this game where Herbert is going to look to take off and run. And the Texans have given up 13 scrambles of 10-plus yards this year. That's the most in the NFL. 5 different quarterbacks have gone for at least 30 rushing yards against them this season. Mahomes, Cam Ward, Trevor Lawrence, Bo Nix, Baker Mayfield. And this is a game where there's a lot of playoff implications in this game. If the Chargers win the last 2 weeks, they win the AFC West, unfortunately for Mason. So big game coming up next week against Denver, but this is also a game that they need to win for that to happen against the Chargers. And generally, when you're looking at those types of games, specifically with an offense like the Chargers, where the offensive line is beat up, these receivers have a really tough matchup, that's when I want to bet on quarterback rushing. It seems like quarterback rushing tends to, especially for elite quarterbacks like this who can run, you tend to see an increase in these important games. And this is one of those for Herbert. And really no concerns about him running less because of protecting the hand. We haven't seen that at all with this Chargers offense. So I think this is a spot where you could see him go for 25 plus. You could see him go for 40, 50, which we've seen a couple times here this season.
Yeah, and the hand was a cause for concern to some degree, but we actually saw that, he took a couple hits and sort of rolled off of him in that last game, and he's had this number in 2 of his last 3. So this is definitely a spot where there is that potential. And when we talk about it in terms of one of the situations that we see quarterbacks run a lot more is when they are pressured, when they are forced to break that pocket and get out of there. Philly, obviously, they've been rushing the passer a lot better over the back half. He had 66 against them, 42 against Dallas. And we know that they're in the top 10 in pressure rate. So that is definitely a situation where we've seen him, flourish, particularly with the hand. It felt like it was less of an issue this past week than it maybe was the week prior, where it felt like he was very much favoring it. But with that situation, he is going to have to move. He is going to have to run a little bit. Judah, do you see anything else in that one that we might have missed?
No, I think that's a great angle. I'll be on it myself, build some SGPs around it as well.
Love it. So we're going to jump into one of mine for the week. And I want to give a shout out to Judah because Judah opened my eyes to this one and made me feel better about my missed SGP last week when I was on, Quinn Ewers. I was on some Devon Achane, and you know what? We're going a little bit back to the well here. We're not going to go a whole SGP, but I'm going Devon Achane over 26.5 receiving yards. And I think the big thing here is, Judah, you actually highlighted it in your early lines to watch. When we write that together early on in the week, this was actually one of the games that you targeted in that at Miami plus 5.5. And you made the note that the Dolphins were productive offensively. Outside of those few turnovers that broke open the game, they were right there in it at first. And it really just turned the game on its head at that point, and it was not a same game in the second half, but they were relatively productive in the first half and overall ended with some quality metrics. And now they're going to face a Tampa Bay defense that has really struggled, bottom 5 in numerous passing efficiency categories, yards per attempt, like you mentioned, passing EPA. And the thing that I want to highlight here with this one in particular is their struggle covering running backs. In coverage against backs, they've allowed the most yardage in the NFL entering Week 17. They have more than 100 yards given up to backs than any other team in the NFL. 10.2 yards per coverage target. No other team allows over 8. And the biggest difference in this one is how many explosive plays they give up to running backs in the receiving game. They have 19 receptions surrendered of 15 or more yards. That percentage is more than 7% higher than any other team. They're at 24.4%. Only one other team in the NFL even exceeds 15%. So that is a space where when you're coming up against a really athletic guy like Achane, I think he can really break that open. 26 yards feels like something that he could get in one catch and one run. So I'm going to be in on that. And when we see just some of the similar performances from backs recently, Bijan Robinson had 82 in Week 15 against this defense. He had 100 in Week 1 against this same defense. This guy has 182 receiving yards against this singular defense. I think that shows you a lot of what you need to know. They really struggle to cover guys with that level of athleticism. They've allowed 12 backs to go over this mark this season, sometimes 2 backs in the same week. A couple weeks ago, they gave up 60-plus to both backs in the Buffalo game. So, I'm going to be in on that. And really the big thing is like we talked about, it's this matchup. It's the matchup with the linebacking core here. Levante David, Hall of Famer. We all know that. Mine still works very quickly. The wheels just aren't really there right now. He's going to struggle to run down athletic backs in open space. And then Savasier Dennis, he's really just struggled being in the right spot. His 30.0 PFF coverage grade ranks 76 out of 78 qualifying linebackers at the position. So I think that that's going to be a place where when they come in and game plan for this game, that they're really going to make a point to get Achane the ball in space and let him run with it. Ben, are you seeing anything in that one? That was an interesting game last week. I mean, I was a little bit surprised that it got turned so upside down, but did you see anything in that matchup or with this team in general?
No. I mean, I like this prop. Pass catching running backs against the Buccaneers, especially elite pass catching running backs against the Buccaneers. So, yeah, I'm in on this.
Yeah. Judah, same question. I mean, we went over this a little bit. Like I said, you wrote about this game early in the week. Break it down for me. Tell me what we're seeing in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got the Achane prop right. Hopefully, he doesn't have a 30-yard swing pass called back for a phantom OPI, only for a fumble to happen on the next play. Yeah, I actually like. I think the Dolphins move the ball very efficiently. Last week, I mean, they're like yards per player, 8.3, and granted some of that was garbage time, but even before that, they're moving the ball well. I mean, how many times we successfully attacked this Tampa Bay defense? I think that a lot of the Dolphins' offense is going to flow through Achane, especially given the matchup. I think it's a great spot. I also I don't hate kind of Dolphins SGPs as it is. I mean, McDaniel is like coaching for his job. He's every bit as into it. I don't think there are any questions of motivations here. I think also like from his perspective, but I don't actually hold a lot of stock in it. But I'll say this anyway. If just like you want to say, if you're Mike McDaniel, like Tua Tagovailoa was the problem, not me. Right, and if that at all changes their run pass ratios or whatever it is, I think it leans slightly to more passing. Not that I'm necessarily kind of betting off that, but it's not. This is a Tampa Bay offense that since Baker Mayfield got hurt in Week 7 has just been bad. Baker Mayfield's had one positive EPA game against the Falcons 2 weeks ago. It's just not the same offense. Even returning all their guys, I think they're very overrated on the offensive side. The defense has been getting destroyed in pass against opposing pass attacks for a long time. I don't love the pricing, which is why it was not my SGP, but I do like kind of some more moderate, alts and other angles if the Dolphins winning this game.
You raise a good point. Mike McDaniel's coaching for his job. That's gonna distinguish what this game plan is, and of course, our game plan of the week is always presented by Western and Southern Financial Group, a game plan for your financial future. And just like every team win starts with a great game plan, your future should too. With life insurance built like a championship roster, Western and Southern helps protect you and your family so you can focus on winning today, knowing tomorrow is covered. Whether you're just starting out, building your dynasty, or looking to lock in long-term protection, their coverage options are designed to match your game plan. Visit westernsouthern.com/PFF to get your free life quote and start building your financial game plan today. Western and Southern, built to win, backed by over 130 years of helping people protect what matters most. And boys, we were talking some SGPs. And of course, make sure you guys follow Judah at Throw the Damn Ball. And of course, hit up all of Judah's work on PFF.com. He gives some same game parlays every single week that you guys got to check out, that you got to tail on there. Judah, we've already talked about Ben's parlay. Go ahead and give us your parlay for the week.
Yeah, in a really sexy game. Really, I just want, everyone's got to have something to watch at 425. That's not just the Eagles and Bills. The NFL did us dirty a little bit.
There's only 2 games. Yeah.
What? 7 1:00 games, 2 4:00 games. What are we doing here? Yeah, we're going for Geno Smith 280, Trey Tucker 100 yards, and anytime touchdown, and Vegas to come out with the win. This is obviously the tankathon game, and I think kind of like general philosophy, for me is like barring some like particularly unforeseen circumstances, mostly players not wanting to play for their coach. Like the players that are on the field are going to be playing to win. I don't think Geno Smith is excited to tank this one out so that like Vegas is in a better spot to choose his replacement. That just like does not make sense. These guys are, I think, going to be playing to win. The front office is doing its job by putting the guys on IR pre-flop. With all that said, like I guess just breaking down the game from the other side, like this Giants offensive line is in absolute dire straits now with Andrew Thomas out. I mean, it is just weak links up the wazoo. I don't think Max Crosby is one to not pass rush at 100%. And I think that like the Giants offense is going to look fairly anemic behind these guys. I don't think Marcus Mabau and his 42.8 pass block rate is a great matchup here. And I think that's going to lead to plenty of kind of volume on the other side. And this is a Giants defense that has been absolutely horrendous, kind of like at any stretch. And their run defense has been very, very bad, which I actually think helps. You want Vegas to kind of stay on the field and be able to move the ball. And then the Trey Tucker angles, this is a Giants team which forces the third highest deep attempt rate in the NFL. They're allowing a ton of deep separation. Trey Tucker is one of the best deep separators in the NFL. He's got the sixth best mark according to our ratings. Obviously, the offensive line has not really been able to hold up for Vegas for a lot of this year. But I think certainly also if you can run the ball, get yourself in some favorable passing spots. Like Geno Smith is going to look downfield. If the Giants force looks downfield, especially with Brock Bowers out, those looks are going to go to Trey Tucker. Catch one of those deep bombs, even get a couple of deep passes here. And I think that's kind of the path for Vegas to certainly ensure like fairly good offensive success and also for Smith to kind of go over his prop here. And this is a long odds bet. And we're really kind of betting on one to two of these plays, which I think have a little bit of a higher frequency of happening than the market kind of expects, especially given the matchup.
And they were competitive last week against the Texans. They outplayed them. Yeah, they
fully outplayed them.
Right, and they were just sort of undermanned at a certain point where it felt like if they had a few more dudes, they were right there in this game. I was actually highly impressed with what we saw from Ashton Jeanty, and that's sort of plays into your point. He had 128 against this Texans defense that's been one of the best against the run all year, and now he's going to be playing a Giants team that's one of the worst against the run all year. I think you're right on track here with that. They can keep this offense on the field, and then we know what Geno Smith can do when he's clicking and when he has opportunities, and if they're going to have a nice separation with Trey Tucker against this man coverage, I mean, that could definitely be a spot to exploit. So I really like your angle here. Ben, are you seeing anything in that one?
Yeah, I think it's a good spot to take a shot as well. And the other part of this is the Raiders' offensive line is like getting a little bit better. It looks like you might get Colton Miller back this week, which would be huge at left tackle. He's one of the best left tackles in the NFL. He's been out pretty much all year. So potentially getting him back would be big. And yeah, if Geno has time, he's going to rip the ball downfield. Right? We saw that in Seattle. We saw it even early in the year, this year a little bit, before the offensive line just went to shambles and Bowers went out. And I think even without Bowers against this Giants defense, there will be some opportunities there for him.
I like it. I think it's a really good angle here. And a big shout out in the chat here. I want to get your boys' inputs on some of these quick game hitters that we've got in the chat here. Panthers, Niners to cover, Eagles money line. Which one of these you guys buying? Which one are you guys selling? Judah, we'll start with you.
Panthers to cover.
7? 7 at home?
Yeah. 7 at home. I mean, the Seahawks offense has kind of fallen a little bit flat. I don't really have much interest in this line. It's kind of moving to 6.5. So sure, if you can get a 7, I'll take a good number there. The Eagles offense also, it's like, I think it really depends on whether or not they can get Barkley in the ground game going. Like the Bills just cannot stop the run. And I guess also it's a question of like Josh Allen's health. Like, I don't think Josh Allen's going to be 100%. And I think like he hurt his foot in the first half, was pretty terrible in the second half. this is a very tough Eagles defense, and like you need Josh Allen to play hero ball to be able to mitigate that. So I think I'd lean Eagles in that matchup too, but
yeah,
not too strong a take.
I've generally kind of been fading the Eagles for a lot of this year.
Same.
I think this is a spot where I like Philadelphia, because like this Eagles defense is good. It looks like they're going to get Jalen Carter back. The Bills offense they've shown that they can run even on good run defenses. So like that I think is key, because if you're relying on an injured Josh Allen to play hero ball with this receiving core against this Eagles secondary, like I don't know if that's a path to success. And this Bills defense, yes, the Eagles offense has its issues, but this is a beatable Bills defense. So I think I would lean that way as well.
You know, before we get too far into it, I really do. We didn't quite talk about that 49ers one. I was actually a little bit more surprised with this 49ers, pick at -3 against Bears, who have been playing outstanding. And that game on Sunday night has a ton of implications. Ben, do you have any leans on that one? Do you see anything happening in that one? That's going to be a really good game.
Yeah, I would lean San Francisco -3 in that game as well. The offense has played very well since Brock Purdy came back. And this is a Bears defense that has lived on turnovers, but like in terms of teams being able to move the ball on them, you can move the ball on them. So I think the 49ers will be able to have offensive success. And then on the other side, this is not a great 49ers defense. We saw that with Phillip Rivers and the success he was able to have on Monday Night Football, passing the ball and keeping them in that game. But I just kind of trust, if we're looking at two teams with questionable defenses, I just kind of trust the 49ers offense more than I do Chicago's.
Yeah, definitely going to be a really good matchup. A lot of implications for that one. The number 1 seed in the NFC potentially on the line for the winner. A lot goes into that game. Judah, do you see anything in that one?
Yeah, I want to know George Kittle's health status.
That's a big one.
I think that's kind of a massive one, both in the pass and run game. And I do think the Bears, what Ben said is true, though. Like the Bears defense is kind of fraudulent in the turnover sense, but they also have gotten a lot healthier in recent weeks, and I don't think are as bad as kind of the early season down numbers would suggest. But then again, like the Niners haven't punted in December, and if George Kittle is back, I don't know about Ricky Pearsall's status either. This is a spot where like I still do give the edge to San Francisco, but there's a reason the line is 3.5, and that's a San Francisco offense that like is moving the ball at will. The defense is terrible though. The pass defense is atrocious.
And Roma Dunze out is a tough look for the Bears there. But hey, Caleb Williams, highest graded throw on the season, that +2 throw, that was incredible. So let's see if he could do that again.Maybe a little over at 220 on the passing line there for Caleb. Keep up with San Francisco with Brock Purdy after he had a 95 grade last week against the Colts. Absolutely incredible. Plug, transition. That's what we call it as the pros. We're going into my same game parlay there with this transition. We're taking advantage of this Colts defense again, boys. I did this a couple weeks ago, the last time this Jags team played Indy, and I'm going back to the well. That one didn't quite get there, but I have some confidence in this one after what I saw this past week. I think that the wind is a bit out of the sails in Indy, and they're just going to have some tough situations there. Now, there is some stuff there that maybe this game could potentially, the Colts offense could actually figure some things out. Like that game last week looked okay until it really didn't, and it just started to snowball effect there. So what I'm seeing here is I'm going to tell the story of the Jags pressing out a big lead early behind an efficient day from Trevor Lawrence, and Brian Thomas Jr. being very effective racking up big chunk yardage. So we're going Jacksonville -9.5. We're going Trevor Lawrence 270 plus under 32 attempts, and Brian Thomas Jr. 100 plus. That is 35-1. And let's start with just the moving the line out to -9.5. So this team's 6-0 against the spread over their last 6. Their average victory margin, Ben, in those games, 18.8 points. That's a big number. The last time they faced this Indy team, 36-19, 17-point win. Indy's issues, I mean, they're just not cohesive offensively. They scored 27 last week against a pretty bad San Francisco defense. It's only the second time they've put up over 20 since the start of November. And they still lost by 21 last week to San Francisco. So, I mean, it really was not that close. And we just saw teams press the issue. And we've seen more and more teams press the issue against this Colts coverage. When they smell blood in the water, they just seem to attack them. It's what we saw a lot last week. And now, over that span of games, Lawrence is actually the only quarterback to not throw for 270 against Indy over that last 5. Now, some of those were a little bit closer, but I think I'm a little more confident after seeing what we saw last week with San Francisco. Now, it's a little bit different offensively, San Francisco versus what we've seen out of Jacksonville, but I think that both can be explosive units. We've seen a lot out of Jacksonville as of recently, and Trevor Lawrence is a big reason why. He's still very, very effective. Over that span, over that last 5, 8.1 yards per attempt, 8.1 yards per attempt the last time they played, had 3 drop passes that probably would have put him near or over that 270 mark. And we just saw what Brock Purdy did against them. 295, 34 attempts, 8.7 yards per attempt. So we're looking for just like one step underneath that. And since the start of December, Trevor has been on fire. Second in PFF passing grade, 91.6. Second in yards per attempt, 8.7. So very effective, very efficient. And then when we just go to the other side of this thing, just to put a bow on the Colts' coverage troubles, since week 11, they're 28th in yards per attempt, 31st in explosive play rate. And when you look over at the other side, who could the Jags really target to take advantage of some of those things? Look no further than Brian Thomas Jr., 21.6 average depth of target over that span. And he had 86 in that first meeting. I think that we could see a situation where they take one more step forward, a little bit of bad blood. You want to knock Indy out, really take control of this division, and give yourself a good chance at climbing the standings there if you're Jacksonville. So I could see them trying to come out and make this a statement win more than just, hey, let's get in there, let's win this game. I think that they want to take this division opponent and beat them down. So that's where I'm going with that. Again, that is Jags minus 9.5. Trevor Lawrence 270 plus, under 32.5 attempts. Brian Thomas Jr. 100 plus. Ben, do you see anything in that one that I might have missed?
No, the Jaguars are. It feels like people still aren't necessarily putting them in contender status, which is partially their Jacksonville. But I think they are live in the AFC. They still have a chance at the 1 seed. It's a slim chance, but they still have a chance there. And this is an offense that seems to be stepping into another gear since they traded for Jacoby Myers, who's been a massive addition for them, just kind of his reliability over the middle of the field. Parker Washington had a big game last week against Denver. The run game has been good. And this is a defense that they had some stretches where they were giving up production, but since week 10, I think they're second or third in the NFL in EPA per play allowed. It's a defense that's playing really well, right? So this is a tough matchup for Indy. I get a little bit nervous with Lawrence Alts when they're bigger favorites, just because I do think the run game is good and they could lean on that a little bit more. But this is a situation where if you're banking on Brian Thomas 100 plus and like getting these explosives, that's kind of how you get there, even when you're winning by margin. Side note, Judah, I kind of tailed your Lawrence Jacksonville stuff last week. That was very nice. So yeah, I like this against the Colts. So I think we could see come down to earth a little bit more this week against a much better Jacksonville defense than what they saw last week against San Francisco.
Judah, tell us the secret sauce. What was the angles for Lawrence last week? Tell us what you were hitting on.
Lawrence last week was I think the Denver pass defense was pretty overrated, and I guess to Ben's earlier point about the Jaguars offense changing in its philosophy is that kind of since Jacoby Myers arrived, the team went from kind of averaging, like Lawrence's like deep attempt percentage was like somewhere between 7 and 10%, and then in every subsequent game, kind of with Myers, that has grown from he hasn't had one like below 15%. They're throwing deep a lot more often, and Lawrence has been very, very efficient when throwing deep, and Denver filters a lot of those plays deep, and that is kind of exactly how Jacksonville racked up a lot of yards is kind of Parker Washington on a lot of those deep throws. But I think that does kind of point to Jacksonville as a team, getting getting healthier on defense also has been kind of huge for them. This has still been a really good pass rush. Josh Hines-Allen is having a terrific season. And then Devin Lloyd has just been an absolute stud at linebacker. And getting him back, I think, has really transformed this defense. He is our third highest graded linebacker. I just on your SGP. I love the angle, and I think it can be played in multiple ways.
Tell us. Give me the secret sauce.
I saw 60-1. So don't be shorting yourself at 35-1.
Well, did you see? I didn't check it this morning. I set this last night, so I haven't checked it this morning. It might have moved around a little.
It is currently 60-1.
Here we go.
Official
baby.
price time of recording is 60-1. I think we can push out the Lawrence yards a bit more because I think there's kind of a weird curve between his pass attempts and the yards. You really need to be betting on some bombs here. Which is fine. But I like the Thomas angle. We don't have any Parker Washington props yet, but I think I might like Parker Washington a little better. And that is the Colts defense in a very weird, twisted turn. Since getting less healthy, I started playing a lot more man coverage, which is a little bit of a disaster considering who they're trotting out at cornerbacks. Parker Washington's got a 28% target share against man. His ADOT is a tiny bit lower. It's not 15, it's 12, but he still has a very deep target and route profile. And he's got 2.8 yards per route run against man. Thomas is at 2. He's got a 28% target share. He also I think been seeing the field a lot in free receiver sets. If anything, I think that might increase after last week. I kind of love playing the Parker Washington angle too. And there are a lot of different ways, kind of to the point generally with SGPs. It's very difficult if you're giving out one singular SGP to capture a lot of what is combined. Building this in multiple different ways, especially because these are more long shot bets, often kind of makes sense in the broader portfolio. But I love the angle of Lawrence throwing for a bunch of yards in this spot. Can even add some Travis Etienne rush here too, which I think plays well with the under attempts if going that route.
Yeah, and I did play around with a couple of ideas on that too. Parker Washington was actually my first stop, Judah, and I was upset that I couldn't build it around him because the lines just weren't out yet. But yeah, Parker Washington is a big one. This Colts defense has been giving up a ton of yardage to guys out of the slot too, and we see a large workload for Parker Washington out of the slot. And again, something that we saw last week is that yards after the catch stuff that he is just so good at. And this defense, again, has struggled with yards after the catch. So that could definitely be a spot to take advantage of as well. I really like that angle. And of course, Judah, you mentioned it right there, is that there are so many ways to build in these longer shot parlays that taking sort of just one angle on the approach is probably not doing enough due diligence on a lot of those situations. It's good to build these out in a few different factors and a few different ways that they can transcend and come to fruition. So I definitely like it here. And of course, boys, that about does it for us. That is the end of our Week 17 breakdown. And of course, for everybody at home, make sure you guys get your subscription to PFF Plus. 30% off right now for a few more days using code HOLIDAY30. That gets you access to the PFF player prop tool. That gives you access to premium stats, which gives you all the data trusted by all 32 NFL teams. And of course, for everybody that's out of the playoff hunt now, the mock draft simulator. Get in on the action. We already have mock drafts up from the guys over on the YouTube, so make sure you guys go check those out as well. And of course, for Ben Linsey, for Judah Fortgang, for our producers, Ty and Quinn, I've been Mason Cameron. Until next time, everybody, good night, good luck.